Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly episode, episode number 171 for June 14th, 2022. So many things. This is quite a list of things to get through today. It's been a busy week since the last time I did an episode. So let's jump right into it with my latest completed project. You have seen this one before. This is called With Glowing Hearts. Well, that's what the original pattern was called, as you know, but I had a lot of problems with that pattern, and so I just abandoned it and decided to do my own thing. And this is what my own thing looks like. So what I did with this quilt to salvage it was I used 3 of the actual original blocks that came from the original pattern, ones that I hadn't blown completely, and I incorporated them into this quilt. And that's what you see in the center, the big block and these 2 smaller blocks. Now, this big block was supposed to be the size of these blocks, but it didn't work out that way. That was not really the fault of the pattern so much as my fault, because I misread the instructions at that point, and there was some square pieces you had to cut into 4 triangles. I cut them only into 2. That gave me a much bigger block, and I didn't realize I'd made a mistake until I went to put these side pieces on to the center square and realized the center square was too small. So I cut one that was the right size, and then at that point I'd had it with this pattern. And you know, if you've been following me on a regular basis, you know all the trials and tribulations that I've had with this one from Northcott. So I decided to put an applique fussy cut a piece out of the panel that came with the kit that I bought to put this together, put that in the center, and then I built the rest of the quilt around it. Now, these pieces that say Canada on them and this maple leaf one up here in the flag, those all were fussy cut from the panel. This block and this block in the corners were ones I designed myself. And again, I fussy cut from the panel the center blocks in those. These pieces that are running down here were actually a panel I had from another project from the same line of fabric, the old Canada fabric line from Northcott. And I decided, after trying several different things in here, I decided, why not just cut them in half and stick them in? And so I did. Added a border, quilted it, and let's see if I can do a little bit closer shot here so you can see the quilting. There it is. I bought from Urban Elements online a edge-to-edge design that has maple leaf and curly cues, and I think it looked good and it was appropriate to this particular quilt. Let me just get back out of here. Oops, maybe a little too small. So let me pick this apart, shall we? I'll be honest, I was thinking of giving this as a gift. We've been invited to a Canada Day party, first party in several years. Looking forward to it, and I thought I would give this as a gift to the host. Not going to do it. I just can't. There's too many things wrong with this quilt. Now, yes, it doesn't look bad, but I know what's wrong with it. Let me start with, there's so many things. Okay, first of all, let's start with the applique in the center. What was I thinking when I put that in? What I should have done, let's blow that up too, so you can get a better look here at what I'm talking about. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Okay, how do I, here's how I do it. Still getting used to the Mac. Okay, you see, I fussy cut this out, and all I did was a straight stitch. Now, I put it on steam seam, you know, glued it to the center of the quilt, and I did a straight stitch all the way around it, very close to the edge, to tack it down. Well, that's not good enough because the fabric frays when you wash it. This has been washed. At the time you're seeing this picture, it was washed. And you really can't see it in this picture, but there are a few little frayed bits. I should have used a blanket stitch or a satin stitch, something like that. What was I thinking? Stupid. Idiot. Idiot move. Idiot move. Um, let's move down a little bit to what else I'm not happy with. If you look over here at these blocks in the corner, okay, I used a directional fabric. My rule is usually to stay away from anything with stripes because this is what'll happen. So although this has been washed and it's not laying perfectly flat when I took the picture, you can see that the stripes are a little wonky, and just in the way that I've used them, that shows up. You see, it just looks like a mistake in my way of thinking. So that was a mistake. Another mistake was this binding. Okay, I used the same striped fabric. Well, let me just pull back a bit from here. If you take a look at the binding, it's not consistent. You know, down here, this looks pretty good in this corner because for some reason it worked out that those stripes were even. But when you look at other parts of it, it is not. It looks wonky. Well, that's because it is wonky. So yeah, I can't give this to somebody. And there was a mistake, a flaw. And again, I was an idiot. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I see it now. Let me blow this up just a little bit more. Okay, right here. See this mess? Now, yes, when you're looking at the quilt um, from a distance, if you're glancing at it, you're not really giving it you're not scrutinizing it, you won't notice this. But what happened here was my seam opened up. This is right in the, almost practically in the middle of the quilt. That was while I was long arming it. Now, I should have got out my curved needle. I should have mended it by hand. I could have done that easy enough on the long arm, but no, I didn't do that. I decided, well, I can probably just use the long arm itself and do sort of a little teeny zigzag in there. And I had yellow colored thread, goldy colored thread. That's what I was quilting with in the long arm. And I figured, well, that'll just blend in. It'll look sort of like it's part of the quilting design. No, it doesn't. No, it didn't. It looked like I had done a bad mend job. And I did do a bad mend job. Not only that, not thinking again, those stitches using it on the long arm we're going to show on the back side of the quilt. And the back side of the quilt is a red fabric. And it's a gold thread. So it's definitely going to be obvious on the back. So I thought, what can I do? Well, I could have ripped it out, but that was going to take a while because I went over this sucker, probably the strongest part in the whole quilt. So I got out my fabric markers. And it was close enough to the red edge there that as you can see, I put a little bit of fabric marker on it. Now, with it blown up this size, it is pretty obvious, but when you look at it, as I said, overall, it's really not noticeable. And I gave it the Walter test. I said to Walter, find the mistake in the quilt. And he couldn't find it. So it means I did disguise it pretty well. But the problem here is I know there's a mistake in it. And if I was giving it as a gift, I'm not giving somebody something that's not as perfect as I can get it. So no, this is not going to be a gift. Right now, it's sitting on the back of my couch in my living room upstairs. It's where I put each quilt that I make. A new quilt goes on on the couch until the next quilt replaces it. And it looks great there. But no, not happy with it. Not one of my better jobs. And considering the amount of hell this quilt put me through, well, yeah. Now, I did have leftovers. So let me go to this picture first. I created a table runner. Again, I'm thinking, I can give this as a hostess gift to that party. Nope, not going to do it. You know why? Made the same mistake twice. I appliqued those squares in the center of, or those diamonds in the center of the table runner. I should have left well enough alone, but I was looking at it, and this piece in the center was a piece that I made for the quilt, uh, until I got the idea of putting in the panels. I just wasn't happy with this on the quilt. So I thought, well, it looked a little plain there, so let's just applique some diamonds. And I did the same thing. I straight stitched. I should have blanket stitched them because they'll fray a little bit and they just will look unfinished. So no, these blocks at the top and the bottom were originally going to go into the quilt itself, but they just didn't fit in with the scheme. So I didn't want to waste them. So I put those 3 pieces together, put a border on it, slapped on a binding. You'll notice this time I got smart and didn't use the striped fabric for their binding. And yeah, it's okay. I can use it. But I'm not giving it to somebody. It's just not right. And I had a couple of other blocks left over as well, so I decided I needed new cushion covers in my rec room. So these turned out good. These turned out nice. And I quilted those beforehand as well. And yeah, those turned out okay. Those I'm happy with. Okay. So that's my tale of my Canada Day creations, which, yeah, I'm leaving those now. Okay, this one, I am pleased with how it turned out. This is my airplane quilt, and now what you're seeing right now, I just realized you are not seeing the finished product. And so, well, let's talk about this for a second, and then I will insert a picture of the finished product for you. This is the top only. It hasn't been quilted yet, obviously, in this picture. And this was the airplane fabric. I'll talk more about that I had ordered online. And I used a special tool. It's called the Little Twister template. And I have used this tool before for some other projects, and it creates these shapes you see in the middle. Now, these would show up a little better. They actually look like sort of like propellers. See right here, this one is good. Let me see if I can blow that up for you as well. Okay, so if you look in here, you see the shape, and there's the shape there, and there's the shape there. So if you study it, you will see those shapes. They would have turned out better if I'd used a little stronger contrast in my colors, but I didn't. And that's okay because I like these colors. It makes the quilt really bright and cheerful, and I want it to be bright and cheerful because this is going to go to a friend of mine who's going through a tremendous health problem right now. He's in the hospital, he's on a ventilator, and well, I know it's a little crass to put it this way, but I'm really hoping he lives to see this quilt. Yeah, that's sad, I know, but it is the reality of the situation. Anyways, and he's an enthusiast for commercial airliners. He loves planes, jets, and so that's why I got this fabric. I was lucky. It took some doing, but I got it, and so I made this quilt. Yeah, so I use this tool called the Little Twister for this. It's kind of a fun technique with the ruler. I found some cloud fabric at Ultimate's Cloud. Yeah, I said cloud. I thought I said clown. Okay, I'm losing it. Cloud fabric at Ultimate Sewing. And I thought that was appropriate. And so, yeah, it's not a huge quilt. It's about 62 inches square. And so I did slap it on to Lucy. And let me get the picture of that. So here's the final version of the quilt, all quilted up. I did use I found a special edge-to-edge design that looks like airplanes and clouds. See if I can show this to you. It's kind of difficult to see in this picture. Well, you'll just have to trust me on that. It looks like an airplane in the clouds all the way across a continuous design. And got it bound, and I used a dark blue fabric on the back, and I think it turned out pretty good. I washed it because I like that crinkly look, and it always looks much softer after you've washed a quilt. And now I just have to get it to my friend, and I'm hoping this brings him a little bit of cheer into his life because, you know, right now he needs some cheer, I'm sure. Yeah, so that project is done as well. Okay, some other projects. Let me get out of this. So this is the next installment in the Block of the Month quilt that I'm working on called Lakeside. And as you can see, this month's going to be pretty easy. Got to get started on this. There's only 2 blocks. I think you make 4 of each, and they are pretty basic, just half square triangles kind of a thing. So that's coming along, that quilt. I'm really kind of happy with it, although my measurements aren't coming out exactly with every block to the size that they're supposed to. But, you know, when in doubt, fudge it when it comes to putting it together. And I will fudge it. And like, I'm not a stranger to fudging, right? Um, so I was talking about this airplane fabric that I picked up, and this is what it looks like. A little bit grainy looking from this picture. It doesn't really look like that in real life, but that's what I used in the airplane quilt for my friend. And I got this from an online store. It was an Etsy store, and I don't usually deal with Etsy stores. And right or wrong, it's because I don't trust them. I'm afraid that what's going to happen is that for some reason I'm not going to get uh, what I want, or, you know, it's something's going to happen with my credit card or whatever. And I know lots of people order things from Etsy all the time. But this was the only place I could find this particular fabric. And it was in Canada, the Etsy store. It was called Miley's Discount Crafts. So I took a chance, and I couldn't be more pleased with their service, with the price, the whole bit, and their selection. In fact, I'm so pleased with it that later in today's episode, I am using that store as one of my stores to review. So I'll talk more about it then. Um, Now I was talking also about the mini twister uh, tool that I bought. So when I went to Ultimate Sewing last week, they were having a sale on 20% off their fabric on what they called their black shelves, which pretty much are most of their shelves. And so I went in and take a look. And, you know, do I need more fabric? No, I don't. But do I want more fabric? Yes, I do. So, of course, what caught my eye immediately? This, the butterflies. In fact, it was Walter who spotted it first, and you know he's an enabler. And he goes, "Oh, look at this." And I went, "Ooh, I really like that." And then I saw this. So I bought the two. Not necessarily to use together, although I think you could. Um, but they're really nice fabrics. So have to find a pattern that's worthy of those at some point in time. But Walter thought this was good, and I think he bought 3 meters of it to make me a shirt. He said, "Would you wear a shirt like that?" I said, "Yep, I most definitely would." So we'll see. It'll probably be next year by the time he gets it done. But anyways, yeah, it's really nice fabric. And that's, of course, where I bought this template. This is the midi size, they call it. They come in about 4 different sizes. And I bought this for the airplane quilt. Okay, so what else do I have to show you on here? All right, this. This was an absolute gem of a find. It is a wool mat. Now, I've had wool mats for pressing on for quite a while. They're all the rage. And I have been asked, why do I like wool mats for pressing? Well, because they will really help your seams to lay flat. They're great for steaming. They're just so nice to press on. I highly recommend, if you don't own a wool mat, get one. You won't regret it. Now, they are pricey. Now here, this is my pressing station, and you see these 2 pieces down here. These are pressing boards that I made way back when I first got into quilting, because I wanted a larger surface rather than an ironing board. And so these are pieces of 3/4 inch plywood that are covered with a layer of batting, maybe a couple layers of batting, and a piece of canvas. And they work great for pressing, and I used those for a while until I got my wool mats. Then I bought 2 wool mats, started with one, got another one, that were about 18 inches high by 24 inches across. and they fit on these two pieces very nicely. Actually, these little pieces underneath these boards are a little bigger than that. And that's why we've been pressing on. And I put the two mats together next to each other, butt them up. But the problem is I have a gap, sort of like a gap you see right here. And your fabric tends to lay in that gap. And when you're steaming it or pressing it, you get a little line down your fabric. So you got to move your fabric over and press on either side of that. And I said to Walter the other day, last week, I said, I wonder if I could get a bigger wool pressing mat. Now, I had seen bigger ones, I think about 36 inches across, 18 by 36, but those were like close to $300 when I looked at them a couple of years ago. And I thought, geez, do I want to spend that kind of money on a wool pressing mat? And the answer was no, I'll put up. But I thought, let's just do a little search on Amazon and see what happens. Well, this mat came up. It's 22 inches high by 60 inches long, half-inch thick. The other wool mats I had were half-inch thick as well. And I'm thinking, okay, how much is this sucker? 129 Canadian dollars. Free delivery because I have Prime. Tax, that didn't include tax, but nevertheless, about 150 bucks total with tax. Far cry from what I thought they were going to be. There's got to be a catch, right? There has to be something wrong with this. They're lying about the dimensions, they're lying about the thickness, or this really isn't wool. So, of course, I went to the reviews and started reading those, and they were all good. So I thought at that price, I'll take a chance. Now, I didn't need 60 inches. I only needed 45, but I figured I can cut it. So I ordered it. It arrived. In fact, it arrived while we were doing pop-up sew day. And we did Sew Chatty during pop-up sew day. So there is an unboxing about this. So if you're interested in more details about it, check out the latest episode of Sew Chatty. But it is wonderful. It is exactly like the original wool mats I had bought before. Less than half the price for this. Bigger mat. It was easy to cut. I just used my 60mm rotary cutter, no problem at all. Fits perfectly on the space, no more gap. I absolutely love it. Right now, it's my buy of the year, is what I'd like to say. So, you might want to check it out. Just do a search for wool pressing mat on either Amazon.ca or Amazon.com and you will find it there. So it's great. And here's another thing I just thought of. If you want a couple of wool mats, maybe you've got a couple of ironing stations or, whatever. If you buy this size of mat, as I said, with a 60mm rotary cutter, you can cut this down to whatever sizes you want. And I think that would work out more economical if you need multiple mats in various sizes. So yeah, the piece I cut off it is 15 inches by 22 inches. It sits on my cutting table. It's right there if I don't need it for anything else. Wool cutting mats are great for pinning things into as well. So yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled with this buy. It's the buy of the year for right now, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, another really interesting device. This was mentioned to me by Anne Tarabini, who I interviewed last week. She uses this all the time, especially when she's teaching kids how to sew. And what it is they call it a dome threaded needle case. I've bought it from Amazon. Now, you know me, I do not like to hand sew, but I also hate threading a needle. I have a hard time seeing the needle hole. And that puts me off of doing any kind of hand sewing or mending. One of the reasons why I probably didn't mend properly that seam that let go in the with Reinhart's quilt. So this kind of, it doesn't avoid the problem, but it allows you to stock up on pre-threaded needles. So what it does is it holds your needles, and it holds them with the thread already on them, once you've got them threaded, you store them in here, and it winds the thread around. You can see that in the little diagram that's right here. It winds the thread around and keeps them from knotting up. So when you need a needle, you grab one from there that you've already pre-threaded, and away you go. So I purchased one of those. Anne said she used those especially when she was teaching children how to sew, because she'd have to be constantly threading their needles. So she'd have a couple of these. I think it holds 10. She'd have a couple of these all ready to go before she taught the class, and when the kid needed the needle and thread, bang, there you go. Don't have to spend your time threading little kids' needles for them. So let me just switch over here and show you. Here's mine. And so you take the cap off, and you can see my needles are already there. So you pull one out. There, it's all ready to go. When you load it up, you just stick the threaded needle in. There's something soft in here it sticks into, like a pin cushion. Push it in, and there is a, let me go around here. There's a little edge. See if you can see that. See the little edge where my thread's hanging down? You just let your thread drop down there, and then you spin it around. See the threads feeding in, and the tail's up, and there you go. Very neat. They don't fall out. You put the little dome back on, it locks into place. Great. Available on Amazon. Like I said, it's called a dome threaded needle case. They're not that expensive. I think I paid about 10 or 12 bucks Canadian for it. You probably can find it in your quilt store, maybe. So yeah, great little gadget. So that was another buy that I was very happy to have gotten. Thanks, Anne, for that suggestion. Okay, so that takes me to, I told you this episode's going to be long. Pop-up sew day. We had one last Saturday, this past Saturday, June the 11th, I believe it was. It was good. It was fun. Got a lot done. Great group. Everybody's so nice. Learn things from them. I feel when I'm sewing with other people, even in a Zoom environment, I get more done. I really do. And we did not do our usual Sew Chatty. We usually do Sew Chatties on Friday afternoon and put it up late Friday afternoon. But this past Friday, we had a lot of things going on. I had a Zoom meeting with the Quilters Way that ran a little bit longer than usual. And then we had an appointment, and if you saw the vlog yesterday, we had an appointment with a window and door manufacturer installer, because we are going to put in new doors and windows in the front of our house. So they were running late as well. So between those two things, the afternoon was used up, and we didn't get around to Sew Chatty. So I got this brilliant idea on the Saturday when pop-up sew day was going on, that why don't we do it then? We'd have a live studio audience, because we're all on Zoom. So we did. And I think it worked out well. In fact, it was really kind of neat to do it that way, because, as I said, there were other people that could be involved in the recording. They asked us a few questions and things, so it's great. So I think the next time I do a pop-up sew day, I will deliberately also do during that an episode of Sew Chatty too. So anyways, you can check it out and see what you think about that particular format. And the pop-up sew day, as I said, was great. When's my next one going to happen? Don't know. I never know until about 24 hours before I make the decision to do one. So, but there will be others this summer. Not for a few weeks. I'm thinking of having a special one on the occasion of my birthday, which I think my birthday falls, I don't know if my birthday falls on a Saturday or on the middle of the week, but if it's a pop-up sew day, I always do those on a Saturday. Let me just get out my calendar here and check to see what day my birthday actually falls on. It's 1 month from today, actually. It's a Thursday. Okay. So July the 16th, maybe? Might do a pop-up sew day. We'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Don't hold me to that. Okay. So that takes me to a demo that I created in the last week, and I just put it up this morning, and the link for it will be in the show notes below. It's in continuation with the in the hoop creations that you can make with your embroidery machine, the applique technique. And this time I'm showing you how I do a wall hanging slash quilt block using an in the hoop technique. I haven't got this one finished yet. There's quite a few blocks in it, but I'm making a bookshelf style quilt. It's actually a wall hanging. It's not going to be a quilt. It will be a wall hanging, which means I need a wall to hang it on. I'll have to think about that. Running out of wall space here. But anyways, I show you how I create the blocks in that. And you know, if you've never tried an in the hoop technique for doing a quilt, because this is the same technique you can do for a quilt, you should give it a go because it's a lot of fun. And you can get some really cool in the hoop quilt patterns online as well. So here's a little teaser about that video that I created. So again, we use the same procedure as we've used before for trimming. We're just going to use our duck-billed scissors. Now, one advantage is if I had left this with the black thread, I'd be able to see my stitch line a little better here. But as long as I pull, gently tug, not pull, gently tug along the fabric, it'll come up by the stitch line and basically just follow it right along. So that's trimmed. Now you may have a few little fibers coming out, frayed edges, but these will get covered up when the satin stitch goes on. And speaking of creations, I have a subscriber's quilt of the week, and this comes from Patricia Davies. And so here's her wonderful creation. This week's quilts of the week come from Patricia Davies, and Patricia has sent some pictures of her lovely quilts and some of her children garments that she has made that are really quite unique. And she says, I do a lot of different stitching, quilting, smocking, knitting, and sewing of various kinds, primarily for my grandchildren, but some for myself. I have enclosed a few pictures just to show you what I do. Most of my quilts are for a local charity, as my grandchildren and I have many already. Well, Patricia, your sewing is absolutely wonderful. The little children's dresses are so very nice, and a lot of really fine detail. I guess that might be the smocking that's on them. So thank you so much for sharing those with us today. Now that takes me to the YouTube channel of the week, and this is the YouTube channel by Anne Tarabini. Sorry, Anne, I have a little trouble with your last name. Shouldn't, it's pretty easy actually, just me. Anyways, Anne has a YouTube channel, as you know, because we talked about it during her interview last week, called learnhowtoquilt.com. And I decided I would check that out and give you more of a report about that. So here's my review. This week's YouTube channel of the week is one by someone who you are familiar with now if you've seen my latest interview, and that is Anne Tarabini. She has a YouTube channel called learnhowtoquilt.com, and I've put the link for this in the show notes below. But you should check it out, especially if you are a beginner quilter, although there is much here for the advanced quilters as well. Anne draws upon her 20 years plus of quilting experience and her experience as a teacher to create a lot of very informative YouTube tutorials. So you can see here just a sampling of what she has on her YouTube channel: how to paper piece spools, beginner pattern review, spool quilt, how to make a piece quilt, how to make a simple quilt,
elementary quilt sewing block by hand, etc. There are all kinds of videos here that I think anybody at any level of quilting will find extremely informative and useful. So be sure to go to Anne's YouTube channel, learnhowtoquilt.com, and check out her great variety of videos.
Also, you'll find a link, besides the link to learnhowtoquilt.com, you'll find a link for a video clip called Sewing Tips and Tricks for Jeans You've Probably Never Seen. This was passed on to me by one of my regular subscribers and friends, Dana, from Regina, Saskatchewan. She and I are members of the Quilter's Way. And I checked this out because Dana remembers I was having some struggles with hemming a pair of jeans that I was trying to fix up and ended up sending my sewing machine to be repaired. Well, this is a really interesting technique. So I watched it and I thought I would give you the link and share it with you. So if you look in the show notes, you will find a video clip called Sewing Tips and Tricks for Jeans You've Probably Never Seen. It's worth checking out. It really is. And actually, I think I will probably review this entire YouTube channel in a future episode of The Idiot Quilter. So that takes me now to, I flip the page over. I do have notes. Yes, I know it doesn't seem like I do, but I do. Um, this is a future project. It's called the Simply Charming Twister Tote Bag. Now remember, there is logic to my organization here. I mentioned that I used the Twister template ruler to do the airplane quilt, and I showed you what that looked like, that I bought one from Ultimate Sewing. Well, I also have a couple of patterns, and I showed you these patterns in last week's episode that I bought in that little quilt store up in Finland Falls that use this tool. So I thought you'd like to see a little bit more in detail or in depth the actual pattern that I originally bought this tool for. So here's my review of that.
This week's pattern from my vision board is one for a tote bag, and this is one that I mentioned last week that I purchased at a quilt store in Finland Falls, Ontario, Canada, and it's called the Simply Charming Twister Bag, and it really caught my eye for a couple of reasons. One, the color scheme that they used in this one is really quite bright and wonderful and really shows the pattern off very well. And the other reason was that it will use the little twister tool from Twister Sisters, which I happen to own. And that's how you make these patterns that are in, or the blocks that you see in the quilt itself. Just a little close up here on what that looks like. Here's the pattern. And I have linked a website where you can pick up this pattern, but I am sure you can probably pick this pattern up at your local quilt store as well as the tool itself. But if not, I think you can get both from this particular website called Around the Bobbin, which I believe is an American website. So the prices that are being quoted here, $9.50 for the pattern, are somewhat higher in Canada when you do the exchange rate. I think I paid, well, I can tell you exactly what I paid. I paid $13 even for it. But I'm really tripping over my tongue, looking excited. I'm getting excited. That's what I really want to say about making this particular tote bag. And it uses pre-cut 5-inch squares or a charm pack for this as well. So I have a lot of those. So it's a good way to use up some of my charm packs. So if you're looking for something that looks like it'll be very quick, although you do need the special tool to make this pattern, I would suggest making yourself a Simply Charming Twister Tote.
And that brings us to the Idiot Quilter Presents an interview. Yes, I have one this week. It just went up this morning. And this is with a fascinating person. They're all fascinating people. They are. And I don't just tell you that. I'm not saying they're fascinating just to, you know, I wouldn't interview them if they weren't of any interest. If they're interesting to me, then I feel that they'll be interesting to you. So this is Lynn Reinhart of Cotton Arts Studio. Now, I am no stranger to Lynn's background because when I first got into quilting, I used to watch faithfully her vlog. She did a vlog with another lady. I forget the other lady's name. called Stitch TV. It was very informative, entertaining, and I just loved listening to it and watching it while I was working in my old sewing studio area. So she is one of the people who is a co-host for the marathon, International Stitch Marathon Day. More about that in a moment. Um, and I asked her if she'd like to be interviewed, and she agreed. So it's a great interview, and I have a little teaser here for you of it. But as I said, I have just put it up about an hour ago onto my channel, so you can check it out in depth there.
And that's definitely a good way of explaining the importance of a quilt label. And I am guilty of not labeling. I've labeled some and others I don't. And I keep saying to myself, I need to.
Okay, here's what you do. I've got your solution for you.
Okay.
So you do. So take your, because you have like a logo, right?
Yeah.
Right. So take your logo, go to Spoonflower or any one of these online print things, and repeat that logo multiple times with a little blank space at the bottom. You could probably get, I don't know, 100 in a yard, depending on how big you get it.
Right.
Have them print out a yard for you, mail it to you, and then your labels are made and it's got your logo on it. And then you can write in the name of it and the date or whatever with pen. And then your labels are consistent, they're tagged. It's just like a pottery stamp.
And that takes me to the online quilting store for this week, and it is Miley's Discount Crafts. It's an Etsy store. It's the one I got the airplane fabric from that I already mentioned, and it is so much more than just fabric, as you will see in my review.
This week's online fabric store is called Miley's Discount Crafts, and this one's a little different from ones that I usually review because this one is in Langley, British Columbia, which is not unusual, of course, because I review Canadian stores, but it's an Etsy store. And I'll be upfront about this. I do not like to order from Etsy. I know many people do. I've never had a bad experience, but I'm never very sure of whether I'm going to get my product or not. It's just something about an Etsy store that I don't trust. However, I have decided to review this one because, as you saw, I ordered some fabric, the airplane fabric that I showed you earlier, from this particular store. I took a chance because it was the only place online that I could find the fabric that I wanted, and they had it. So I thought I'd take a look around at Miley's Discount Crafts. That's what it's called. And right on their front page, you can see it looks pretty much like any other online fabric store in the way that it's laid out. If we look over on the left-hand side, we see we have fabric, we have scissors and blades, pre-cuts, panels, batting, quilting rulers, quilting kits, floral fabrics, dog breed fabrics, batiks, etc. So basically what we're dealing with here is an online fabric store that just happens to use the Etsy platform for selling their products. Now you can see here on fabric, and if they have 386 to choose from, and prices are pretty good. This is Canadian dollars, and the prices you see here are for, well, I was going to say I think they're for half a meter, but this one I see is $18. Oh, that might be a pattern. No, that's a panel. Okay, that's why it's $18. But these other prices are for half a meter. I am assuming. Let's just pop in and take a look. What's it say? Okay, I'm not seeing what it says, but I'm pretty sure it's half a meter. And they've got cost to deliver it. Their shipping prices were pretty good, I thought. Comes by Canada Post, so you will have to wait for it. Canada Post can be fast, can be slow, it depends. And it's really not telling me here whether that is half a meter or more. Oh, by the half yard. By the half yard, it says up here. It's hidden by that. So it's $18 a yard, which is basically a good price, given the fact that right now fabric is expensive. Let's go back to their main page and just take a quick scan down to see what they have to offer in fabrics. And they've got a lot of novelty fabrics on here. So if you're looking for something novelty, like look at Charlie Brown and Snoopy, I've never seen that before. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but there's quite a bit to choose from. And I got my fabric before they said it was going to take about June 15th to get it. I got a week sooner than that. So it took about a week and a half, 10 days to get it. So that was all right as well. So definitely I would order from them again based on my experience. Let's take a look at pre-cuts. They have 30 to choose from. And prices are okay. Ooh, that's pretty. Fire and ice. Ooh, I might have to do a little bit more shopping with Miley's discount crafts. Yeah, not a bad selection in pre-cuts. Panels, they have 3 batting. How do they sell their batting? It looks like they sell it in pre-packaged amounts. Well, this one's sold by the meter. It's wrap and zap. They have big quilt as you go batting packs, which is kind of neat. Oh, a wine bottle quilt as you go batting. That might be fun too. So really, they don't have a lot. Well, they have hobs, 80/20, and sold by the meter, $15 a meter. Well, again, not out of the way as prices go. Of course, they have lots of other things. Oh, and down here, it looks like they've separated out their fabric according to categories. What do they got in holiday fabric? I'm starting to think about Christmas. Yes, I know it's only June, but you know, the new patterns or new fabrics start to come in the summer for Christmas. And I see they've got some Halloween mixed in there as well. Well, that's a holiday. Actually, not a lot, but I do see a couple here I'm kind of interested in. So yeah, I'm going to have to do some more shopping on here. Dog breed fabrics. They do have wide back. $10.50 for half a meter. Yeah. Well, that's $21. That is a good price for wide back. Now, not a lot to choose from, but some. Like these ones I quite like, and this one, and this one, and even this one. I like them all, actually, except I don't need a dog print one, but that's okay. So let's look at, they have scissors and blades. Now they have an acrylic ruler set stuck in there with it too. Rotary blades, $10. Average package, $39.99 for an Olfa rotary blade. That's a 45 millimeter though. They don't seem to have 60 millimeter replacement blades. Maybe that's something that comes and goes here. I don't know. Maybe this changes. You check back regularly for things. Quilting rulers, they only list 7. And they have quilting gloves in here and a handle as well. So yeah, I'm not much of a selection in that kind of thing. So really, this whole site is more for I think, yeah, in far as quilting is concerned, it's more for fabric. Now they do have other things though. If you look up here, they have jewelry and accessories, clothing and shoes, home and living, wedding and party, toys and entertainment, art and collectibles, and craft supplies. So they're just not a fabric store. True to their name, Miley's Discount Crafts, they have everything. And as I said, they are Canadian, and they're located in Langley, British Columbia. So I think this has changed my attitude a little bit about an Etsy store, at least for this one. And I think I'll be ordering some more things from them in the future as well.
And that brings us close to the end of this episode. You're going, yay, because this was a long one. But before I go, I just want to mention again the International Stitch Marathon happening on July the 22nd. starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And of course, this is the brainchild of Brenda Logan from Conquering Mount Scrapmore. And there are a whole bunch of us that are co-hosts. In fact, the list is getting longer as we go on. Not sure how that's all going to work out, but it'll work. It'll all work. But I thought I would like to introduce you to each of the co-hosts, but now there are so many. I was originally going to do one each week on So Chatty up to the date of the event, but there are more co-hosts and there are events left before the event happens. So I'm going to split those up between Idiot Quilter episodes and So Chatty episodes. And so this week, I want to introduce you to two people. One actually has an intro video. The other one has one, but the link doesn't seem to work. So I can't really show you that. I'll have to get a message to Shonda about that. But you have met Shonda Counts before because I interviewed her about a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago now. And I have reviewed her YouTube channel as well. So she's one of the co-hosts. So do check out Shonda Counts. Now, there is a link to her YouTube channel in my show notes, so you can click on that. But I don't have an introductory blurb about her. However, I do have on another co-host, Jane Galley. Jane Galley is in the UK. And, well, I'm going to play you her blurb.
Hello, I'm Jane and I'm the owner here at Loopy's Place, based in Sheffield, South Yorkshire in the UK. And it's lovely to be able to spend a few minutes to introduce myself. I've had an online presence for probably just over 10 years or so, and I have been doing online sessions for many years to help people learn to sew and learn to quilt. For the last 2 years, just over, I've had the studio here in Sheffield, and going on for a year, been able to invite people in and have those one-to-one sessions. I find that a lot of what I do is building confidence in people to help them feel that they are capable of sewing and creating beautiful things. Many come from a background where they've been told that they can't sew. One lady recently was told she was unteachable when it came to sewing, and I don't think that's true of anyone. So by helping, building that confidence, trying new things, aim to give people the skills that they can go out and create things themselves. You'll find my website. I'll put links, we'll add the links below. So I've got the website, Loopy's Place. I'm also a guest blogger on United Kingdom Quilters United, UKQU for short. And I'm also here on YouTube and social media channels. You'll find me under Loopy's Place. So I hope you'll join us when we have our international crafting days, where we can sew and quilt together and do other crafts. Doesn't matter what you do. It'd be great to have that international connection with you all. Look forward to seeing you then. But in the meantime, do take care, and I'll speak very soon. Bye.
So, as I said, each week on Idiot Quilter and on So Chatty from now until July 22nd, I will feature another one of the co-hosts. And I hope you're able to join us on Friday, July the 22nd for the International Stitch Marathon. All the details, the Zoom link, everything you need to know are in my show notes below. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this very long episode. I hope you're still with me. If you are, thank you for being there. If you're not, I hope you enjoyed your nap. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.